Okay, so I did just spend an entire video half-heartedly accusing Sasuke of having an inflated record, littered with some of the strongest characters in all of Naruto. But it did make me think, was I being too hard on him? Is Sasuke really deserving of all the hate and all the gas? Let's find out. Well, I was prepared to come in here and just fucking two-handed slop Sasuke up. I swear, I really did. I even chose Minato because I believed for like a full 5 minutes on the first draft, I thought, easy Sasuke dub. It's gonna please the Sasuke fans who thought I downplayed him in the first video, and maybe piss off the Minato fans, you know? Get in that algorithm, have some laughs, and I actually wrote in my first draft the entire thing biased for Sasuke. But then I started gathering evidence to support my claim, and I found out Sasuke just isn't like that. I was expecting that Drake, but instead I got that Michael B. Jordan.
Oh my god, this is the tiniest little wiener I've ever seen. It's so small.
Which is good. Nothing wrong with Michael BJ. He'll treat you right, I'm sure, but he's not packing that heat when you need it. But let's actually get into the EMS Sasuke scaling. So we don't actually see EMS Sasuke perform any meaningful feats until after the 10 Tails is sealed by Hashirama. It's still fighting back and releasing these tiny clones, but for the record, regular Jonin are fighting these things and winning. But for now, we can use this to gauge the approximate speed of base Sasuke. And we already know his combat speed from his fight with Killer Bee, which, to be frank, in base, my man is cracked. In base, he's able to parry 6 Tails V1 Killer Bee, which is the same form Killer Bee uses to match Raikage A to perform the double lariat, which is stated to be near light speed in verse. It's not A's top speed V2, which he uses against Naruto and Minato, but it still is very impressive. But it's not B's top speed either, since he can still go V2 Tail B's Cloak, which amps his speed and power even further. For the record, Samehada takes 6 Tails of chakra worth in a single swipe, and when V2 gets drained, he goes down from 8 Tails V2 to 8 Tails V1, meaning the difference between V1 and V2 is 6 Tails worth of chakra. Point being that B can amp himself further. And even when someone who is familiar with B sees his transformation to fight Kisame, he sees the V1 7 Tails cloak and he's just like, yeah, B's not even trying right now. Meanwhile, he only used 6 V1 against Sasuke. Effectively, B is using 6 out of 14 possible Tails worth of energy to fight against Sasuke, and it's already too fast for him. It should be noted that full power B is still slower than Raikage A. Not to mention B gets stronger by the war arc, but the Raikage is still just faster. As far as perception and reaction time goes, this is a great feat for anyone in the verse. Sasuke is able to parry this in base. I remember this being Sharingan Sasuke, but it's actually base Sasuke doing this, though he does appear to lose a ton of momentum and even goes negative depending on which version of the fight you look at. But Sasuke was at the top of the mountain next to B when he counters the attack in both the manga and the anime. Then in the anime, after the parry, he reaches the mountaintop, jumps back, and doesn't make it past the water before B collides back where Sasuke had originally started. It's a bit of a rough estimate, but starting with the 20-foot deficit, he does not catch Killer B and appears to only make it halfway back somewhere on an island in the lake before he gets caught in an explosion in the manga, though he seems to be a bit closer in the anime. It'd be safe to say then that Sasuke is only around half the speed of light in his travel or jumping speed and easily at or above light speed in terms of his combat ability. I know it's a weird concept separating travel speed and combat speed, so if you don't get it, just think of it this way. The average human can run about 20 miles per hour, and the average punch is between 20 and 25 miles per hour. 30 to 35 if you're a trained fighter. Yet people can still dodge these objects that are technically faster than their top speed movement. This holds true even for untrained fighters. However, B blitzes Sasuke at close range, this time with his Sharingan activated and facing him, though he is tired and in pain from the Mangekyo Sharingan recoil in this moment. This light speed combat ability then holds consistent as a stronger Sasuke during the 5 Kage Summit performs well against V1 Raikage, as he is seen slipping punches and countering Raikage in boxing range, but then isn't able to react physically at least to V2 Raikage, even though he is able to perceive him to an extent and activate his abilities, he just can't physically move to counteract him. It should be noted though that Sasuke doesn't surprise Raikage or catch him off guard with any of his attacks. He sees the flames and understands what it means if he hits them, and then just hits it anyways, deciding most likely that he was killing Sasuke regardless, which makes sense. He thinks Sasuke killed his brother. This speed tier remains consistent as EMS Sasuke is later shown substantially slower in travel speed when compared to Edo Itachi, who some people put on the same speed tier of KCM1 Naruto, which I don't think is entirely accurate, but we'll cover it briefly anyways. Itachi is able to blitz and take Killer Bees back, granted it was under the cover of summoning Jutsu Smoke and had a rock blocking his vision. But Itachi goes on to dodge the same combo that folded 3 Tomoe, MS Sasuke, then while going all out under the control of Kabuto, is able to keep up with a suppressed Naruto. People think this is indicative of his speed, but it's kind of nebulous and unquantifiable when you really think about it. Like, imagine you're sparring a world championship kickboxer. You're going all out, and he's having a conversation with you while blocking and parrying all of your attacks. At the end of the day, you wouldn't go brag to the fellas in the back of the room that you kept up with him, yet this is exactly what everyone does for Itachi here. However, while I think Naruto is definitely holding back in this instance so that he can talk with Itachi, it would be disingenuous to say that he is massively slower than Bee or Naruto at this point in the series. Further evidence of Sasuke's speed being less than Killer Bee's is his performance chasing Itachi. For the bulk of the encounter, Sasuke is struggling to keep up and eventually gets outpaced substantially by Itachi when he collides with some summoning crows. This gave Itachi enough time to break through Sage Kabuto's barrier off screen, destroy a wall, and then have a short conversation with Kabuto before Sasuke is even able to catch up. In terms of his war speed feats, it's really just more of the same. His base form is shown to be as fast or on par with base Naruto, who, should be noted, is tired from days of fighting pretty much every powerful ninja in history. 6 Jinchuriki enhanced with Sharingan and Rinnegan, their full-tailed beast, and then Edo Madara and Obito at the same time. An interesting thing to note is Sasuke is damaged in his initial appearance on the battlefield from blowback of one of Sakura's punches. At first, I thought it was just something on my screen, but no, it stays on his face for another chapter, while his EMS is shown on par with this same fatigued Naruto. Additionally, worth noting is Sasuke also loses a foot race to Edo Hashirama, Tobirama, Hiruzen, and they all lose pretty substantially to Minato. All of these people can be scaled at or above V2 Raikage speed, either through their fighting with Madara, who's just not impressed at all with V2 Raikage A's speed. He reacted consistently to him until Inoki lightened him. That, or they can be scaled to this level through their feats against Jubito. But to the point, Minato especially outruns them all to the point he had time to stop by the ocean, place a kunai, run back to the battlefield, teleport a Bijudama, strike a pose, give a cool line, and then have a short conversation. It wasn't close in terms of their travel speed. The only people Sasuke managed to beat to the scene were Orochimaru and Team Taka, who stopped along the way to heal Hokage. Seemingly one of Sasuke's greatest speed feats is fighting blind Sage Madara, but even that gets completely negated by Hashirama, who just outright said what I always thought. Madara let him live in their first encounter. The reason being, as he says himself, is that Sasuke reminded him of his little brother and wanted to give him a chance to convert onto his side. And this too is then confirmed immediately by Madara when he finally decides to try. He gives Sasuke a speech about how he'd given him enough time to consider his offer, and then stabs him in the heart. This same Sasuke also had just received amps from Naruto, Jugo, and just a panel before his death received all of Hashirama's chakra, and yet is still slower than both Tobirama and Madara. It seems incredibly consistent then that Sasuke's speed limit exists somewhere at or slightly above Raikage A's V1 in terms of travel speed, but more on par with V2 in terms of his combat speed feats. So somewhere in the vague area relative to light, say 0.5 through 0.9 the speed of light in terms of its travel speed, to somewhere equally vaguely faster than light, say 1 through 1.5 times the speed of light in terms of its combat speed. I know that's not really a satisfying answer, but I'm not trying to say, I don't know, just for example, measure the distance traveled by this truth-seeking spear, approximate it to be moving near the speed of light since it did blitz Hiruzen's clone, who should be as fast as the Raikage himself, then measure the distance Sasuke traveled in that time and find that Sasuke ran approximately 30 feet in a straight line while the rod went 15 feet at an angle, presumably at the same speed that blitzed Hiruzen, and then conclude Sasuke ran 1.5 through 2 times the speed of light in order to achieve this feat. I don't like doing these types of half-assed calcs because it goes beyond the author's intent, but when it falls in line with the speed tiers that are relevant, I will. For example, why I don't like to do these sorts of calcs. Like, let's just look at this for example. We could look at the panel where Naruto moves his chakra arms 50 feet before these same rods that blitzed Hiruzen, who should be relative to Raikage, could move 1.5 inches in order to pierce their skulls and then conclude Naruto is 400 times faster than light in this moment. I don't like to do these things because it really just doesn't make sense and it's so far beyond the author's intent. Well, maybe not in the case of Naruto, considering just how much he outclasses Sasuke at the end of the series. Anyways, his speed is consistently shown slower than people who should be faster than V2 Raikage, but not so slow as to be irrelevant. I would say he is comfortably in the top 10 fastest shinobi on the battlefield, while he's an EMS pre-6 paths. I think it looks something like this, but I'm not at all married to any of these placements. I know, probably not how some of y'all would rank them, but this is just how I saw the feats play out. Let me know how you saw them in the comments. Maybe you can change my mind. Again, I'm not married to my ideas, and it's possible I just missed something. But what about his power output? Now, unfortunately, a lot of his power output feats come from his teaming up with Naruto. Whether it's his Amaterasu arrow or even his first ever nearly complete Susanoo, none of them are packing much power relative to the other characters. The tree cutting feat, Tobirama did it, Hiruzen did it with his staff. It's only while being amped by Naruto by more than 4 times Kakashi and Jugo, who's providing a greater than 10 times base amp, which this scaling we gained from Jirobo, who had a weak seal. Meanwhile, Sasuke had the strongest of all of the seals, and all of them are derivative to Jugo, but it's easiest and safest to scale the amp to the weakest version of the cursed seal. But know that it's probably an even stronger amp given that this is directly coming from Jugo and all of the cursed seals are a derivative of his innate abilities. But again, it's only while amped that Sasuke does anything relevant by himself until the final attack with Naruto. Additionally, it's not a hill I want to die on, but we never actually see Sasuke utilize his perfect Susanoo until having touched that level after being amped by an arbitrarily 10 through 40 times over. So it's questionable if he could have reached that level on his own without significant boosts. But again, it's not a hill I want to die on, so we can just grant that he has the ability to use the Susanoo without being amped by anyone else. The reason I say that is because, as we know, when you're standing inside of Naruto's Kurama avatar, you are passively receiving chakra from him, as we see within the Boruto series. The only times we see him do anything on his own is when his Enton arrow is matching a fatigued Naruto, who Sasuke thinks he's stronger than until he recovers his chakra. And when he does, Sasuke immediately gets insecure about his own strength. And then again, we see some of his power when he applies Enton to Naruto's Rasen Shuriken in allegedly equal power. But immediately after this, we see that Naruto is so tired and low on chakra that 3 Rasen Shuriken completely drain him out of his partial KCM cloak. So it's really not indicative of him having equal power to Naruto. Sasuke's feats, not scaled with Naruto or Jugo's help, are when he cuts this wall in half with his Susanoo and when he fires his Enton arrow at Obito, but it gets countered by 3 chakra rods. This is Sasuke's strongest attack, and it gets dismissed without a glance. And for reference, can you imagine Naruto's Rasen Shuriken getting stopped by 3 chakra rods? To make matters worse, this attack is from an Obito who has his lungs and heart missing, in case it wasn't obvious by virtue of how chakra is a derivation of physical and spiritual power. This Obito is significantly weaker than the one who's been fighting Naruto over the past few days. All of this to say that it appears Sasuke's output is shockingly low in terms of power. But on the plus side, his arrows are ridiculously fast. They put Kakashi on the ropes faster than anyone has done in the series, period. Kakashi is notorious for holding back in every fight he participates in, but when he sees that arrow from a nearly blind MS Sasuke, he skips all the lube and jumps straight to MS, even saying that if he did not use the Mangekyo Sharingan, he would just die. But the threat of the arrows is more of a speed issue really than a power one. All of the evidence points to the Raikiri and the Chidori just blatantly being stronger in terms of power output, but the speed on those arrows make 95% of the cast completely irrelevant. To gain an approximate speed of these arrows, we can look at how they performed against pre-war Kakashi, and as it's shown, pre-war Kakashi is too slow to dodge, and while he could see them, he could only counter by teleporting them away. But they are too slow to tag Sage Kabuto at more or less the same range, and Sage Kabuto doesn't appear to be much, if any, faster than Itachi, who, need I remind you, is slower than KCM1 Naruto. The two, Itachi and Kabuto, are incredibly relative in their fight. If you want to think Kabuto and Itachi are equal to KCM1 Naruto, which is easier for scaling's sake, which I don't think is true, I personally think they're slower, but it seems to be the consensus in the community. It's then the narratively safe stance to take that the Susanoo arrows are more akin to V2 Raikage in speed. as the two require significant effort and precognition to even dodge slightly in the same way Naruto dodged the Raikage. Neither Sasuke or Itachi thought he'd be capable of dodging it at that range. It would be narratively consistent then to think these arrows are at or relative to light speed, considering that it is becoming the new level needed to be relevant in the series, and the fact that these characters are relative in speed to KCM1 Naruto. Being any faster would seem out of place considering Obito reacts to them casually. Now, in terms of his chakra, Sasuke is never shown to have a tremendous amount. In his fight with Itachi, he uses 3 Fire Style Jutsu, 2 Chidori derivatives, and some Genjutsu, and a pre-MS Sasuke is completely drained. And this is a Sasuke with Orochimaru absorbed, so he has more chakra than when we see him fight Killer B, but perhaps not more than the 5 Kage summit towards the end when Sasuke's chakra is developing, and even exceeding to some interpretations his Curse Mark II state, which includes Orochimaru. However, the stamina issue persists throughout the 5 Kage summit. He runs out of chakra almost immediately after fighting the Raikage, but gets regen by Zetsu. He then runs out again before and after his fight with Danzo, only to be restored shortly before its clash with Kakashi. He seems to have low Kage levels of chakra at best, as even Mai seems to have more chakra than him. She endured a full fight against Minato Uchiha without running out of chakra. Granted, she didn't do an especially large amount, but then again, neither did Sasuke in terms of his jutsu usage. I have heard people say that Sasuke was tired here in his class with Kakashi, but that just isn't true. Karin's healing ability is shown to fully restore Tsunade from being bisected, completely restore all of her base chakra, as well as her Byakugo, the 100 healing seal. So, Sasuke is absolutely back at full power after his fight with Danzo. Now on to his durability, which I kind of alluded to earlier. In EMS, he takes collateral damage from Sakura's punch, then takes significant damage from a slam while amped with Naruto and Jugo at the same time, a 10 times boost to all of his stats, and a cloak stronger than the one that Naruto gave the Alliance, which tanked the Ten Tails Cataclysm, and yet Sasuke is slower to rise than Naruto after 4 days of fighting. Additionally, he takes a single poke from a sword and literally dies. Naruto, on the other hand, has been shown having his heart and lungs ripped out as a child and continues fighting. Obito gets the exact same treatment and continues fighting. So Sasuke's durability doesn't appear to be anything special at all. Worse still, pre-EMS Sasuke gets effectively killed twice by B in V1 Six Tails. Meanwhile, Kisame tanks an attack from V2 Eight Tails, which again is 8 Tails of chakra stronger than Six Tails V1. And this isn't some super special technique. This is just a punch thrown at full speed, and he died. Effectively. I know, that was a lot. In recap then, his speed is shown consistently below fatigued KCM Naruto, or even worse still, below Itachi's. When he is shown to be faster or on par with Naruto, he has a boost from Naruto himself, which is more than 3 times Kakashi, and a boost from Jugo, which is a 10 times boost to all stats, or more. While he is alone, in EMS, he performs worse than Tobirama despite being amped with all of Hashirama's remaining chakra. It would be safe to say that he is at best at or below V2 Raikage in terms of speed, considering how easily everyone seems to deal with him in combat. Further recap, his power is more hacks related than raw power. Amaterasu, for example, one-shots most of the verse, unless you're fast enough to dodge it, can teleport it off, are a Jinchuriki that can glob it off, or can absorb ninjutsu. You're just screwed if it hits you. Basically, unless you're a skilled Jinchuriki, have a Rinnegan, or are one of the 10 fastest shinobi in the verse, it's a one-shot mechanic. It's not as high in DPS as one might think, but its real strength lies in the fact that it cannot be extinguished without Kagetsuchi, and further, his perfect Susanoo is consistently shown weaker than Naruto's fatigued, no chakra left, 0.5 Kurama avatar. His best feats appear by and large to be a carry by Naruto. To hammer this point home, if you really just aren't getting it to this point, if you really think that the two, Naruto and Sasuke, are equal at the time they defeat Jubito, after the fight concludes and they get 1/2 of the Sage's 6 paths each, Naruto is still massively more powerful than Sasuke, and it just isn't close. The evidence being the Indra's Arrow clash. Sasuke takes all of the chakra from all 8 tailed beasts and the other half of Kurama. He's bloodlusted and trying to kill Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto, with only the other half of the 9 tails and the other half of Hagoromo's chakra, matches Sasuke to a draw while not trying to kill him. Yes, a lot of people forget that Naruto is exclusively playing defense and doesn't even use boil release, which took Naruto from being vastly weaker than Kaguya to straight up brawling her. Yes, allegedly he used all of the planet's nature energy, which I don't think he did, otherwise Kurama makes the entire god tree irrelevant, but even if he did, a lot of people forget that in order to do so requires that you have to have equal parts chakra and equal parts nature energy, otherwise he would have just turned into a toad, meaning Naruto, at that moment in the fight, just has that level of chakra. Anyways, Sasuke's Genjutsu isn't too bad. Earlier, he was able to momentarily incapacitate Killer B, who himself doesn't have any noted Genjutsu resistance. It's more that when it does happen, the Eight Tails will break him out. Sasuke does, however, have a fairly good feat. He does put the Raikage's aid under Genjutsu, a high-level Jonin and a sensory type, and completely disables him. However, when he tried to use it against Danzo, it just outright failed and he broke out immediately, pointing to it being ineffective against the higher tiers in the verse. Though it should be said, his use of subtle genjutsu to trick Danzo in the end of their battle was extremely impressive, and honestly, just straight up one of the coolest moments in the entire series, for me at least, as it was a return to the more subterfuge and trickery aspects of Naruto. But more importantly, it opens a lot of possibilities for Sasuke to set traps with Amaterasu. Now on to Minato. In order to understand exactly how strong Minato Namikaze is, it is important to understand his death. So that's where I'll start. However, I'll put a timestamp to skip ahead if you already understand the reason Minato decided to kill himself. But even if you read the original Naruto, I will be including some statements from the Minato one-shot that you may have missed. Anyways, his death is where a lot of the Minato downplay originates. Reason 1. First of all, Minato did not think it was practical or even possible to store the entire Kyuubi into a baby. And by his own words, since he himself is not a Jinchuriki, he is then as a vessel incompatible as a container to store a tailed beast. The only way he knows of that can store the excess chakra that can't fit into a baby without it being lost to reincarnation is inside his own body via the Reaper seal. Since if he put it in Kushina, that other half would be lost for an undetermined amount of time until it eventually reincarnated as the Yang half of the Nine Tails. This can be assumed to be true and accurate because Kushina is his sealing jutsu teacher and does not correct him in his thinking. She only states that Minato is using this as an excuse because in actuality, all of his arguments were really just his attempts to justify why he wanted to die that night with his wife. In this scene, Kushina broke him down and made him cry at the reality that she was never going to be able to meet her son. And it's only then that he comes up with this plan to split the Nine Tails. Reason 2. Secondly, even if it was possible to seal the complete Nine Tails inside of Naruto, Minato did not think he could teach Naruto the values of love that are required to fully control the Nine-Tailed Fox, which is both shown and stated. The statements come from Hashirama's wife in the one-shot, the spiral within the swirl, and the second coming from Killer B when he trains Naruto, and when Kushina saves Naruto from being consumed by the Nine Tails. And later, it's just outright shown in the war arc that when you attempt to control the Nine Tails, you must overcome the embodiment of hatred with love, or you will literally die. A side tangent here, I'm not going to put too much emphasis on this, but Minato is a bit of a sociopath. Not of his own making, but think about this. He participated in not one, but two Great Shinobi Wars. First under Jiraiya as a 15-year-old in the Second War, and then later as a 19-year-old Jonin, leading Team 7 as the Yellow Flash, wherein he is credited with defeating and turning back 1,000 shinobi in a single battle, but is depicted on screen as defeating 50 at once, and then by fear and reputation, the remaining invasion literally just runs away, conceding their inability to defeat him or their lack of confidence. For the record, he's already received his flee on sight order and the title of the Yellow Flash by this point in the war. But even if you think his legend has been inflated, he kills at very least 56 shinobi on that day alone, 50 at the invasion, and the 6 tailing Kakashi and Rin. And that's just in one day, in a years-long war where entire nations crumbled and died. And it's not even his only war. We see in the spiral within the swirl that Tsunade was still healing, and based on his wounds, she has not developed her fear of blood yet. So, this is before Dan's death. Call it 5 years then, but more like 9 years of war. And if he only killed 2 people a week, which he definitely killed way more, then Minato Namikaze has killed between 600 and 1,000 people. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but Minato doesn't have any long-range jutsu, at least not ones that he's shown, so he's getting up close and personal for all of these murders. So Minato's probably right. Naruto having a 10-minute conversation with Kushina would be better for Naruto in his quest to understand love than a lifetime of head pats from Captain Throat Slasher here. Reason 3. A bit long-winded, but it brings us to this last point that is perhaps the most important: the stability of the village and Jiraiya's prophecy. Minato deduced from his brief encounter with Obito that he was a threat the prophecy spoke of. And given the context, Naruto must be the child of prophecy, considering they were both revealed on the same night. This despite never seeing if his son had blue eyes. Additionally, he thought Obito was so strong that the only way another shinobi other than himself could ever defeat this man would need mastery over the power of at least half the Nine Tails. And he was actually right. My man instantly deduced how Kamui worked, bodied Obito through raw speed, something no one in the verse has done before or since, and was just like, yeah, this guy's super strong. If anybody else wanted to fight him, they would need complete mastery of the nine-tailed fox. Now, to some people, that last point seems like a crazy statement, but Obito is ridiculously broken. To even be able to touch him, you have to perception blitz an Uchiha, who himself is already traveling at light speed by scaling, since he's able to rush Minato, who as a Jonin 5 years earlier easily dealt with and would have killed Raikage A at top speed, so it seems pretty consistent. He also survived a presumably full power base Rasengan, which, as I'll get into later, is much stronger than you think. Point being, Minato scaling a 15-year-old Obito to KCM or higher isn't too much of a stretch, especially considering the high likelihood he was wearing a Zetsu cloak at this moment, which, if you'll recall, amped Captain Yamato from somewhere around base Sasuke at the start of Shippuden to fighting the entire Shinobi Alliance at once, and drawing a fight with Hiruzen. Minato's perception of Obito's strength seems pretty exact when you really look at it. But back to the subject at hand, Minato's skills. We'll start with this sealing jutsu. We got to see some incredibly impressive seals and barriers in the flashback of the Nine Tails attack, and most famously, the Flying Thunder God barrier, which rips a hole in space-time, and anything that comes in contact with it is transported forcibly to another location and operates in a more brutish fashion than, say, Kamui. But we'll come back to that later. We also see the contract seal, which Minato used to permanently sever the contract between Obito and the Nine-Tailed Fox. And it is permanent. Obito has never been shown to be able to summon the Nine Tails ever again. But where some of the speculation arose regarding Minato's sealing ability is in some of the comments made by Kushina that there were other options to seal the Nine Tails, and by the Raikage statements during the war, wherein he states that he knew of Minato studying Uzumaki's sealing jutsu. And it's not like they were friends and Minato was just showing him all the cool shit he learned. It was most likely because he had either seen him use it in battle or had received word that Minato was out sealing his shinobi on the battlefield. Whatever the case, this is then just outright confirmed in the spiral within the swirl, wherein we see a 15-year-old Minato was learning sealing techniques directly from Kushina. He would have had 9 more years to work on his sealing jutsu on the in-between, between this instance and when he would have met Raikage on the battlefield. And here, at age 15, without even finishing his training, improvises his own sealing jutsu that stalemates 7 tails of the full QB. 7 tails V2, that is. If you'll recall, 20 years later, Jiraiya almost died sealing 4 tails of 1/2 of the QB, while it was suppressed inside of Minato's 8 tetragram seal. But most importantly, Kurama looks at Minato's seal and is just like, yo, what the shit, dude? This man is almost as strong as Hashirama. Then, Minato injects himself into the sealing jutsu in the same way that Killer Bee did when he was training Naruto, then clashes his Rasengan into full Kurama's Biju Dama, and they tie, presumably, at least, with a significant or slight edge, though most likely significant, to Minato. We can infer this because the tide of the battle swung overwhelmingly in Kushina's favor immediately after this. Kushina was losing the battle with Kurama at this point, and then switches directly over to winning. Now, this is important to note, because Killer Bee confirms that when you inject yourself into another person, you are weaker than you would have been otherwise outside in the real world, or if it had been inside your own seal and chakra mind. Kushina is using her chains, but it is confirmed these are significantly weaker and grow more powerful with age. And again, she was losing to Kurama. She was 2 tails away from fully manifesting into Kurama and dying. 15-year-old Minato injecting his weakened chakra into Kurama's seal was still powerful enough to damage full-body Kurama to the point where baby Kushina could suppress him on her own. I say that because as we see before the fade out, Minato's seal is no longer there. He released his seal first and then clashes with Kurama. Now before this, Kushina on her own could not hold down the Nine Tails at all. Kurama was winning badly. She couldn't hold back 3 Tails v1, and she definitely could not suppress 7 Tails v2. But one suppressed Minato Rasengan did more damage than an Odama Sage Rasengan, and presumably more than Naruto's Odama Rasengan barrage, since Nine Tails still needed to be hit by an Odama Sage Rasengan before half of Kurama submitted to Naruto. And even then, it still wasn't defeated and had to be subdued by Minato's Tetragram Seal, let alone a weaker, younger Kushina. Additionally, when B finds out about the type of sealing jutsu used on Naruto, he compliments it, saying that it's a stronger seal than that which is used to seal the 8 tails. It could completely suppress the 9-tailed fox. The only reason any chakra escapes is because Minato set it up that way, so that it would gradually release chakra over time so that Naruto would slowly learn how to control it. Even more insane is that when we see Naruto activate Minato's lock component of the seal, what do we see but Tori Gates, the same sealing jutsu that Hashirama Senju uses. And when Kurama feels it, he thinks to himself, this is the Sage of Six Paths. Now, whether you think that's accurate or not, just know that Kurama is insanely intelligent. He is the one that formulates a strategy to deal with Obito, not Kakashi, who has an IQ higher than Shikamaru, which is 200. It's Kurama. Kurama also figures out that Shibaku Tensei quicker than Itachi did, and apparently also knows nuclear physics. So him thinking a 15-year-old Minato improvising a sealing jutsu is on par with Hashirama, and then seeing Hokage Minato's sealing jutsu and confusing it with the Sage of Six Paths is just about as consistent of scaling as you can get for Minato's sealing abilities. His sealing jutsu as a teenager is on par with Hashirama, and as a Hokage is more akin to the Sage of Six Paths. If you think this is inconsistent, by Hashirama's wife's own account, she's the one who sealed the 9-tailed fox on that day in the Valley of the End. Now, for some reason, you think this is a stretch, the Uzumaki sealing jutsu are just that cracked, just know this. A, it was not Hashirama who sealed the 9 tails. It was his wife doing it in the middle of their battle to help him out, and she's not noted to have had any other help. B, the Uzumaki possess innately vast chakra on near Hashirama levels, which aids in the chakra struggle that is innate to sealing jutsu, wherein if your chakra is stronger than your opponent, you can seemingly just break out of the seal, as we see with Naruto and Iruka, Madara and Gaara. The list goes on. C, their sealing jutsu and high levels of chakra were so feared by the enemy nations that they were exterminated. And I mean literal genocide. There are only 3 known survivors of the Uzumaki clan, that being Nagato, Kushina, and Karin. Oh, and obviously Naruto. Their sealing jutsu was so feared by the other nations that they actually ganged up on them to commit genocide of an entire people. And it makes sense. They have enormous amounts of chakra and sealing jutsu in a Kekkei Genkai on a level that can tame all of the tailed beasts by default, since their Kekkei Genkai sealing chains scales to the 9-tailed fox. This sounds like incredible wank on the surface, but they could seal the 9-tailed fox almost instantaneously, which by default scales them above not only all the tailed beasts and all standard shinobi, but even above the Rinnegan's 9 Phantom Dragon sealing jutsu, which, for reference, it struggled to seal even 1 tailed beast, that while being powered by 9 tailed beast level shinobi. It took 3 days to extract the 1 tails, the weakest of the tailed beast. Meanwhile, Uzumaki sealing techniques, 8 tetragram for example, instantly sealed 9 tails level targets against their will, and it can be performed at any time given the host is strong enough to perform it, whether that means an urn, a scroll, or another human. It's also important to remember the Reaper Death Seal and all of its variations, the King of Hell, the Chakra Tug of War, all can be resisted by having relative power to one another, and this is consistent across all depictions. Orochimaru was even with Hiruzen in their battle and was able to resist the Reaper on equal footing. Naruto lost a tug of war with Kurama until Kushina suppressed its power. Naruto and B were able to resist having their souls stolen by the King of Hell when Edo Nagato attempted to take their souls. With that information in mind, let's look at how this went for Hokage Minato. with the utmost ease. I want you to remember that this Minato is almost completely out of chakra here, and he tears the Nine Tails in half, and it could do nothing to stop him. And when Naruto comments on his father's strength later in the war, Kurama's just like, yeah, dude, I know. I fought him once, and he fucking tore me in half. Again, this is low chakra Hokage Minato, meaning Minato in base or even Sage mode has strength that far exceeds the Nine-Tailed Fox, which is consistent with his feats to this point. He blitzes the Nine-Tails multiple times, he one-shots Obito, who thinks he's as strong as half the Nine-Tails, and again as a suppressed 15-year-old is strong enough to clash in a direct chakra battle with the Nine-Tails. Now in terms of his power output, Minato doesn't show his full arsenal, but we know he has access to fire release, wind release, lightning release, yin and yang release. However, we know his base strength as a Jonin is high enough to almost completely sever one of the Eight Tails tentacles with just a kunai. This is something no one else has done aside from Rinnegan Obito. Now, Sasuke does do this feat better, but this isn't just like base sword swinging strength. When Sasuke does it, it's using Chidori, so these are really just not the same feats. Even Itachi's flame-enhanced shuriken barely pierced the surface of B's hands, and Itachi seems to have thought it would have done significant damage. And again, his base Rasengan are just blatantly more powerful than even KCM-1 Naruto's. This scaling stemming from him almost one-shotting Obito. Meanwhile, KCM-1 Naruto, even while exploding inside Obito's body, doesn't even destroy the arm that it hit. Minato also fights on par with KCM2 Sage Naruto after sharing some of Kurama's chakra, pretty directly implying that Minato in base is stronger than Sage War Arc Naruto, but if you don't worry, I'll touch on it later. This scaling is also narratively consistent, as Minato saw all of Sage Naruto's fight with Pain and was just like, yeah, Obito's way stronger than you. All this given, I believe it's fair to say then that base Hokage Minato is just blatantly stronger than KCM2 Naruto, though probably and almost certainly not KCM2 Sage Naruto. Finally, let's get to his speed. I don't think anyone will argue when I say full power Minato is just about the fastest shinobi pre-six pads or 8th gate. Full stop. He is the only person to ever touch Kamui Obito through raw speed. As a Jonin, he is fast enough to react and kill the Raikage, who is light speed. And I remember a lot of people thinking that it's just reaction times, but it isn't. If the Raikage is moving at the speed of light, Minato's hands have to be moving faster than light to catch him while in motion, but if that's not enough for you, he blatantly blitzes the full Nine Tails multiple times on the night he dies while low on chakra. This Nine Tails being fast enough to tangle with Madara and Hashirama, who are both well above light speed by scaling to blind alive Madara, who no-diffed Edo Hashirama and Tobirama, not to mention EMS Sasuke enhanced by Hashirama's chakra. And further, Edo Hashirama is not impressed when he sees V2 Raikage's speed at all. And Edo Hashirama, who is weaker and slower than alive, 1v1s the same Madara that bullied V2 Raikage and pins him down with Tori Gates. And again, in case I move this in the edit, Minato straight up wins a foot race with all of the Hokage by a significant enough margin to go to the ocean, place a kunai, run to the battlefield, all before teleporting a Biju Dama. Only then to still have a short conversation with Naruto and Sakura before the others catch up. Minato is just significantly faster than light, faster than V2 Raikage, and most importantly faster than Tobirama, who scales directly above Sasuke. In base, Minato's reaction times are enough to perceive full speed 8th gate guy and teleport in between him and Madara before truth-seeking orbs can pierce his cloak. It's not a raw movement speed feat since he doesn't run there, but it is a battle speed feat, as he needs to manipulate his chakra and his body in order to not get disintegrated. Though, it should be noted, while fatigued and in Sage mode, he is too slow to brawl with One-Eyed Jubidara, despite 7th Gate Guy being able to do exactly that. However, whether 7th Gate Guy is faster than full power Minato is an entirely different question. I'll just say this, the Minato that was outperformed by Guy had one arm and only enough chakra to perform one Rasengan and 2 flying Raijin before being completely out of chakra, and I'll just leave it at that. Finally, an important note regarding flying Raijin, which I hinted at earlier, is how the technique is explained to work. Minato cannot teleport things that his chakra, or his body are not touching directly. So logically, in order to move something, he needs to infuse his chakra into it or envelop it, which explains how despite being touched by Amaterasu, he can just teleport away unscathed, and also explains why teleporting massive objects like the full Kyuubi, Gamabunta, and a Bijudama at the same time is so taxing on him, since he needs to cover some arbitrary portion of the object in his chakra. He has to infuse his chakra into these objects in order to move them. Some evidence to support this claim is the enormous amount of chakra he gives to each member of the Alliance in order to move them. We don't know how much exactly that he gave them, but we do know that it's a large enough amount that regular Jonin who are not sensory type notice that they are even stronger than the 3 times chakra amp that Naruto had given them earlier. Point being, it's a significant amount of chakra he has to infuse before he's able to move objects. It's also worth noting that this is one such way that Flying Thunder God differs from Kamui. When Obito teleports himself, it is slower on startup than Flying Thunder God, and he cannot select what does and does not come with him, which is one of the reasons Konan's strategy works. He has his hand on Konan's throat and activates Kamui. And instead of only his target moving, it takes in everything around the origin point of the Kamui portal. If Minato was forced to take anything touching him with him, A, he could not have escaped Obito in the night that he died, and B, he could not have participated in the round-robin attack with Jubito, because this attack did hit him. He was carried by the speed that they were traveling, and even still carried the momentum with him after he teleported. But yet he did not take any of their chakra with him, even though it was pressed to his chest hard enough to carry a 170-pound man dozens of feet. Finally, a blurb on Sage Mode. Sage Mode enhances all physical abilities, perception abilities, and arguably to a level higher than a Mangekyo Sharingan, and enhances durability, not to mention the vast array of Senjutsu that it provides. It even enhances the power of all of your base jutsu. It took Naruto from a high Jonin level to brawling with Tendo Pain and slapping him across the battlefield. Additionally, it took Naruto from pretty standard shinobi strength to stopping the charge of a massive Rinnegan summon on the level of Gamabunta and easily chucking it hundreds of feet into the air. It also gave a Naruto clone, which are confirmed to be slower than your real body, the reaction time to counter and one-shot the third Raikage with just a basic Rasengan. Also, as I touched on before, it amped Kabuto to the level that he could dodge EMS Sasuke Susanoo arrow at point-blank range, something that neither Itachi or Sasuke thought he could do at the time, despite them all being relative in speed to KCM1 Naruto. Jesus, this is a long-winded explanation, but it's necessary to give these two characters the respect they deserve. Ready? Are you ready? Okay. So how does this fight go? Hokage Minato would bully EMS Sasuke. I'm sure you could figure it out based on how I describe things to this point, but if not, I'll be explicitly clear. In a straight-up fight, if you lock Hokage Minato in a room with EMS Sasuke and wait to see who comes out, Minato is coming out with whatever Sasuke had in his pockets. Some kunai, steroids, a locket with Itachi and Naruto in it. In close range, he is just too fast and too strong for Sasuke to deal with. His Rasengan scale above KCM Naruto. His speed is greater than Tobirama, who Sasuke, in all of his showings, is massively slower than, even despite getting all of Hashirama's chakra. And in close quarters, if Minato lands a hand on Sasuke, which he inevitably would, the game is over. He could seal Sasuke away, if not just outright murder him, which in character he would do without hesitation, like he did with Obito slashing the Cloud Ninja. He's just a straight up killer. And should he not do either of those things, and you think this gets long and drawn out for whatever reason, the moment Sasuke's touched, he's marked for death. Minato could kill him at any time from that moment forward. Sasuke's durability isn't anything remarkable at all. He isn't face tanking a Rasengan, and his skin isn't more durable than the Eight Tails. And Minato is ruthless, and easily one of, if not the most intelligent character in the series. He could leave the battlefield and return at any moment and just kill him. But that's unfair to Sasuke to set him up in close quarters where he's at an extreme disadvantage. So let's change the stage. In an open field against a full-body Susanoo, things are a little more interesting. Sasuke's Susanoo is not perfect, and it is doubtful to be stronger than Madara's, which gets torn apart by Tsunade's kicks. And if you think Tsunade's kicks are stronger than a Sage or even base Minato Rasengan, I've got a bridge to sell you. The Susanoo Sasuke has scales below half of the Nine Tails, as it needed a Naruto amp and Jugo, who is a 10 times amp, just to be an equal to Naruto with one half of the Kyuubi. And Minato fought the whole thing. Gamabunta is strong enough to down the full Kyuubi, which is faster and stronger, and presumably smarter than Sasuke. So Gamabunta could pin down Sasuke, and that would give more than enough time for Minato to break through it and either seal or kill Sasuke outright. Though the Bunta strategy would almost certainly result in him dying or force him to reverse summon himself. Even a 15-year-old Minato was strong enough to stalemate the full Kyuubi with the sealing jutsu. And I hate to break it to you, Sasuke isn't that strong. He's a monster that could take out 99% of the Shippuden verse in a 1v1. However, Minato is just a different beast. Even if you don't think my Gamabunta strategy would work, which in character Minato could and would do, Minato could tear apart the Susanoo, either with his raw movement speed and Rasengan, or with his flying Raijin barrier, which forcibly teleports anything it touches away. Sasuke's Inferno style, on the other hand, is a problem, but not really when you think about it. Minato explains that to teleport something with him, he needs to infuse it with his chakra, and need I remind you, we have already seen Minato get hit with Sasuke's strongest version of this technique during the Jubito fight, and he's able to just teleport away from it without taking the flames with him. I often hear the argument that Sasuke could cover the markers with Enton, which would be a good strategy, but I don't think that this would fool Minato. He is demonstrated time and again as one of, if not the smartest shinobi alive, an unrivaled genius, and he's a sensory type on top of it. I really don't think Sasuke could fool him with something so basic. You could argue that he could subtly Genjutsu Minato into thinking that it wasn't there, but I doubt it. Obito has Genjutsu unironically on the level of Kodo Matsukami that can fully control the Nine Tails, and a perfect Jinchuriki, and despite making eye contact with Minato, never even tries it, or if he did, it had no effect at all. And again, Minato is a sensory type and would almost assuredly detect something was amiss. But even if Sasuke could, there are some flaws to this strategy. A, if he places a Mataratsu on a kunai, as the fight runs on, it would just destroy the kunai and the seal that was placed on it. B, Minato doesn't have to appear where the kunai seal is placed, just in the vicinity, as seen on the night he dies, and pretty much every time he attacks using it, except Madara, which I always just assumed because he was surrounded by instant death orbs, and he thought he was still just fast enough to get the drop on him. Or possibly he was going for like a mix-up, you know? It's like, I always appear from behind, Madara sees me teleport, senses me teleport, he's probably thinking, oh, I'm gonna go behind him. No, not this time. I'm coming from the front. It might have been the mix-up, you know? And the other time when he slashed Obito from the front, it was because he needed to stop him from casting hand signs. Otherwise, every other instance of him teleporting, it's to whatever position is most optimal for attack. C, the most important factor is how Flying Thunder God is depicted to work. He has to either be in direct contact with the object or envelop the target in his chakra in order to transport it. And we have already seen that he can be in direct contact with the strongest form of Amaterasu, Sage Rasen Shuriken enhanced flames, and those flames are hotter and more potent than anything Sasuke could produce on his own. And yet Minato was able to teleport away without even being scorched, let alone taking the attack with him. And yes, this attack was pressed to his body hard. He's a 170-pound man and was carried several dozen feet, and even after teleporting, carried the momentum with him. So it was very firmly pressed to him. Flames left sitting on the ground aren't carrying more speed or kinetic force than KCM's Sage Naruto. He could teleport in, see the flames, and just leave, even if they touched him. D, even if he were Genjutsu to not see the flames, or just think, I don't know, say they were red flames instead of black flames, he would feel the heat of the sun and just leave. Or simply move before the flames can transfer enough energy to ignite him or his clothing. And even if it did, he could just leave them behind. All of this to say, Sasuke just loses, and I have not even gotten to Sage Minato yet. We see that Sage Mode enhances the body to the extent that Naruto went from average strength to throwing Rinnegan summons hundreds of feet in the air. And further, even the Hokage himself is shown to be able to catch the hands of Madara Susanoo, which again scales to the full Kyuubi. Meanwhile, Sage Naruto, who is weaker than base Minato, just ragdolls half the Kyuubi, which again scales above Sasuke, both in size and power. It's not a stretch then to think that Minato could do the exact same thing and face tank Susanoo attacks from Sasuke Susanoo, that is. Because again, Sasuke Susanoo is shown consistently 10 times weaker than half of Kurama. It'd be a little out of character for a genius like Minato to be out here just Hulk smashing Susanoo, but the fact that he could do it is more what I'm getting at. And in case you skipped to this point, Sasuke is not Naruto's equal at the end of the Jubito fight, because immediately afterwards, they both get one half of the Sage's Six Paths chakra, and a bloodlusted Sasuke who stole all of the chakra from one half of the Nine Tails And all of the other tailed beasts stalemated Naruto with only half the 9 tails and nature energy. Even if you think Naruto took the entire planet's nature energy, it just means Naruto has chakra on that level. Because if he didn't have equal parts nature energy and his own chakra, his Sage Jutsu would collapse on itself and he would have turned into a frog. And all of this was just to fight a Naruto who was holding back and playing defense. But back on topic. Furthermore, an option for Minato is that he could just summon Ma and Pa for their Frog Song Genjutsu, which in verse would just one-shot Sasuke, considering he fell to Taiyuja's Genjutsu and could only break out because Itachi was there to save him with Tsukuyomi. I believe it is safe to assume then that a more potent Genjutsu cast by the strongest Sage Toads and not just a Senjutsu enhanced Chunin would just spell the end for Sasuke. To wrap things up, Minato can seal things massively more powerful and with more chakra than EMS Sasuke. Minato is faster, stronger, and more experienced than Sasuke in just about every meaningful way. Not to mention, he's more cold-blooded. And if you think his Entone and Genjutsu combo would work, sure, he might be able to hurt Minato. But it's questionable at best if that would even work since Minato can teleport away from it even after direct contact. Realistically, Minato bodies Sasuke. He stands next to no chance in a 1v1 battle. But the point of this whole fucking thing was to say Sasuke is strong. He really is. But in a 1v1 battle, he just stands no chance against Minato. I started this whole video to give Sasuke a fair shake, and I think I did. You know, I tried my best. I really came in here with a bias to make Sasuke look good. And he just really wasn't. No, it's not that he really wasn't. It just compared to Minato, he's fodder, dude. It's just not close. It wasn't really close at all. This was a bit of a mistake for like a Sasuke hype video, but that's really what it started out as. I swear to God. Thank you to all the people who've been commenting on the videos. Shit. What's his user? Oh, couldn't think of anything, dude. You got me back on path. It was like, you know, life got a little wild for a little bit there. I had to deal with my girlfriend having surgery, and it's kind of weird to like break off from that and be like, oh, you know what, babe? I know you're struggling right now, but let me go sit in front of my computer and talk about Naruto for fucking 2 hours. Yeah, but couldn't think of anything. Thanks for the comments. Thanks to everybody else that's been commenting on the videos. It's really, you know, gives me something to do. It feels like this is going somewhere. It's not just into the wind. I plan on doing more videos. I've got a ton scripted out, but I just haven't had the time really to put them out there. But if you've stuck around, you watched this video, you made it to this point, thank you. I really appreciate it. Sorry, I'm drunk. Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it. It makes us all feel like it's for something, you know? I'm not just over here talking about Naruto to myself in a corner in my room. So that's definitely what that is. But yeah, thanks. That's all I got for now. Peace. Bye. He did with 3 fingers. You drunk bastard. It's late. It's late as fuck. Put these blue lights back on so I can actually sleep.